Yo, what is going on, guys? Jaeky here. Today we're going to be going over the most important Valorant settings that you need to change right now. Some of these settings will increase your visibility in-game and make it easier to see enemies. Other settings will make it so that your performance in-game is better. So let's go over it right now and make sure that you guys are running the optimal settings. So the first setting is going to have to do with our mini-map. What you want to do is go into your settings and go over to the general tab, and under map, you want to make sure that you have keep player centered off. So you can see the difference here is that with keep player center off, you can see the entire mini-map at the top left, whereas if you have keep player centered on, it will make your map cut off so you can't see the entire map. So obviously it's really important to be able to see the entire map just so you can see what your team is doing, and also just every area on the map is visible. Following up with this, you want to make sure that your minimap zoom is set somewhere around 0.9. This is because if you have it on 1, on certain maps like Breeze, there will be certain corners that are cut off. So you want to make sure that you set it to 0.9 so that even on the very big maps, you can still see the entire map. As for the map rotate, this is completely personal preference, but I prefer to leave it on rotate because with this, your map will actually turn with the direction that your character is facing, and I find it a lot easier to read and navigate the map when you have it set to rotate. But the most important setting here is to make sure that keep player centered is off. Moving on to the second setting that we want to make sure that we turn on is going to be under our audio tab. You want to go over to your audio tab, go all the way to the bottom, and make sure that you turn on HRTF. So basically HRTF provides better 3D audio spatialization, and in a game such as Valorant, audio is extremely important, so this will allow you to hear footsteps better and pinpoint exactly where people are. I'm going to leave a comparison of HRTF turned off versus on, and once you guys get used to HRTF on, you guys will notice a huge difference between HRTF on and off. So I highly recommend turning this on and getting used to it because it will make listening and pinpointing footsteps a lot easier. Alright guys, moving on to the third setting, a lot of people actually don't know about this because it actually depends on your internet. So if you go back to the general tab and we scroll down a little bit until we see network buffering, by default this is set to minimum, but this actually depends on your network quality. So if you have very good internet and you have low ping and your internet speeds are fast, then you want to leave this on minimum. But if you have high ping and you have a lot of packet loss and you don't have great internet, you actually want to try turning this up to either moderate or maximum, depending on how bad your internet is. So this will actually make your shots feel better and actually feel like they're connecting if you have bad internet and you turn this up. So if you have bad internet and you turn this up to moderate or maximum, you'll find that you feel less lag in game and your shots will be hitting more. On the other hand, if you have a very good internet and you have this set to moderate or maximum, you'll find a lot of your shots missing. So if you have good internet, then you want to make sure you're on a minimum. And if you have bad internet, you want to try either moderate or maximum. Alright guys, next up, you can skip this section if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card. So this only applies for people with an NVIDIA graphics card. So if you have a relatively new NVIDIA graphics card on the latest drivers and you head over to your video tab, you will see NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency at the very bottom. So under NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency, you definitely want to make sure that you turn this on or on plus boost. Now, depending on your system, on might work better for you than on plus boost. If you have a relatively high-end system, I would recommend on plus boost. But if you're having stuttering issues or you're having any other type of FPS drop issues, then try turning it on instead of on plus boost. But if you have a relatively good computer, then most people will be using on plus boost. But like I said, if you're having stuttering issues or any other type of issues, then just leave NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency on. Next is going to be Show Corpses, also under the General tab. I would highly recommend turning Show Corpses off. And basically, you can see on the screen right now what the difference is. This is especially important if you're playing somebody like Sage, because what it does is it turns dead bodies into a little disc, like a hologram disc, and it will show which agent is at that location. So if you're playing Sage, this is extremely useful because you can see very quickly which agent is on the ground at the exact location that you need to aim your ult to res them. So if you're a Sage main, I would highly recommend turning show corpses off. Even if you're not a Sage main, this setting is actually very good because sometimes if you have show corpses on and you're playing an angle like on a staircase where there's someone who's died right in front of you, their body sometimes might block vision of any enemy players. So having show corpses off will actually help you in those very rare situations where you have a dead body in front of you and it might be blocking your vision. Alright guys, this next setting is a little bit of personal preference. It's going to be the show blood setting. So basically, the difference between show blood on and off is whenever you headshot somebody, if you have it on, obviously it will show a blood splatter, and if you have it off, it will just show sparks, as you can see on the screen right now. I used to actually play with this on, but recently I turned it off and I noticed that I like it a lot better. Mainly because I feel like just having show blood off, I can see the sparks a lot easier than I can see blood, just because the sparks are a lot brighter. So if you're one of those people who has trouble seeing like dark red, then I would recommend turning this on so that you can always be sure whether or not you've dinked somebody. So if you dink somebody through a wall or you're using a phantom, having show blood off, I find makes it a lot easier to tell whether or not you've dinked somebody. Next up is going to be show spectator count, also in the general tab. So if you're one of those people who get nervous when you know that somebody is watching you, then you can turn this setting off and it will just make it so that in the top right of your screen, it no longer shows you how many people are spectating you. So if you're one of those people who get nervous in a clutch situation, then you can turn this off so that you don't see how many people are spectating you so that you won't get nervous. Alright guys, the next setting that you want to make sure you change is raw input buffer. You can find this under the general tab under your mouse settings. You want to make sure that you turn raw input buffer on. Now this is not to be confused with raw input. Raw input is always enabled on Valorant by default, whether or not you have this setting enabled. Raw input buffer basically offers an improvement in mouse performance for players. So enabling the setting will tweak how Valorant processes your input. So this basically adjusts the API for raw input that Valorant uses. This setting greatly benefits players who have a gaming mouse with over 8,000 Hz polling rate, but even if you don't have a gaming mouse with 8,000 polling rate, you should see marginal improvements to your latency, so you will have slightly lower latency, but it's not really perceivable, but you should still have this setting on just in case. And just to note, the only situation where you should not turn on this setting is if you have lower than 60 FPS. So if you have lower than 60 frames per second, then I would not recommend turning raw input buffer on. But if you have over 60 frames per second, then 99% of you should be playing with raw input buffer on. And that's pretty much it, guys. Those are the essential Valorant settings that you need to change. If you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I spent a lot of time working and editing on this video, so I would greatly appreciate it. But that's pretty much it, guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.